Yo, what is up, everybody? It's your main man, Boogie Bills, just coming at you with our first rendition of the Kenobi breakdowns with my good friend Melgar Media. You can see his link down there. He's going to have the first part of this video. We're going to be jumping right on into part two. If you like both of our videos, make sure to get nasty with the subscribe and like buttons. Love you all so much. Hope you enjoy it, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Kisses! We also got to see Obi-Wan getting kind of the crap kicked out of him a little bit on that world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, by not being able to use the Force as much or not using it as much in the last 10 years, you really see, how, he hides that muscle. He doesn't use that muscle in his mind very often. So it was kind of wild to see him have to brush it off and try to use it to save Leia from hitting the ground there.
Yeah.
Which was just kind of wild.
Yeah, that was a good scene though too. It's like if he's gonna get his Force powers coming back like that, might as well be saving Leia. Yet again, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You are my only hope.
Yep, literally before you hit the ground.
Yeah. Well, I at least though appreciate that she went for the jump. She gauged it and she was like, "Oh yeah, I got this. Full send."
Well, she doesn't have her Mary Poppins powers as of yet.
She does not. She does not have the ability to jump.
But in her head, she did.
Yeah, she knew she had it.
Maybe that's why she could pull it off in The Last Jedi, is because she'd been imagining, and then she had a little, that training over the years, and she was like, "This is the one thing that I failed at early on in life, and I'm gonna get it."
Well, maybe now too, because they're on this journey, because we don't know where they're going when they actually embark from the end of this episode. It's just a random cargo ship just going off. How much time is going to transpire in between this? What's going to go down? Is she going to get some training from Obi-Wan, or is he going to be fully cut off? Because now that she knows, she's going to be hyper inquisitive about that. She's going to want to know as much as she can. And knowing Princess Leia, she's probably going to get what she wants. Seems like that's what she does,
And I definitely feel like this is a perfect moment to introduce other Jedis that have been on the run. A lot of people are thinking Ahsoka. For me, I'm getting really strong vibes that Cal Kestis will pop up.
Yeah.
On the screen, I'm just getting this by what better introduction would it be to a character that people are really falling in love with? I mean, I think the last one was what was the
Fallen Order?
The clone Jedi. No, it's not. I keep thinking Star-Lord, but it's not Star-Lord.
Star Killer, yeah.
Star Killer, yeah. Star Killer,
Force Unleashed, right? Yeah.
Yeah. What's that actor's name? Witten? Something Witten.
Yeah.
He voices them. He voices He voices Darth Maul.
Oh, okay.
Actually, same guy. But I mean, I remember when that character came out in the games, and I was just like, "This guy's got to become canon. We've got to see him on the big screen at some point. This is amazing." Throwing Darth Vader through walls and stuff.
Right.
And I think that Cal Kestis, though, the actual actor, Cameron, I can't remember his last name. I like to say Monty, but it's Madison or something like that. And that was from Shameless, the show.
Yeah.
He's going to do such a great, playing himself, obviously, but he's going to be great on screen. I've followed him through some of the shows that he's done, and to see him come into live action Star Wars is going to be great. And what better way to introduce him than Obi-Wan? Because then there's no way that he's going to be tarnished as a character. He's like, no, he met actually Obi-Wan at some point, and then we do a time jump till later on after Return of the Jedi. And maybe Mandalorian, and we see an older version of him, and he can do so much, because we don't know what his fate is,
And that's the same. We don't know about Quinlan Voss's fate. We've got other people out. We know Kanan's running around at this point. I think he's just about to meet Hera in a little bit, but he's out there. He might have just met her, I think. So it's,
and we know for sure she's around, because we saw that ship in Rise of Skywalker at the end when they brought back Wedge and Tilly's and everything like that. We saw we saw
Oh,
Hera
she goes
in
the
her ship.
distance. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's a badass. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I mean that there's so many characters that can be introduced, but I really have this vibe that we're going to see Cal Kestis, or just maybe they're going to bring back some other Jedi that we haven't seen yet, which is now's the time. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think that is like possible with Vera herself, the third sister. Like I'm pretty sure that it's going to end up being that girl from that opening scene on Coruscant. So and I might even think from how she's playing it that she might have an issue with Obi-Wan, and maybe part of the reason why we don't see her in the future is cuz she maybe comes back towards the light side of the Force, or get some questions answered that might have pushed her that far. I don't know, because it definitely seems like it makes sense. We already know that the Grand Inquisitor was present in Ahsoka's trial and was one of the Jedi Guardians there, and that is just kind of their flavor, is that they love to take those fallen Jedi and make them there. So we could see more of those fallen Jedi that had parts to play. I think at this point, Oppo Rancisis is still around, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't really see that as a possibility, really. But it will be interesting to see who comes in, because as of right now, we don't know what planet we're going to, and there's a lot of really cool stuff that we already know. We know the Inquisitor.
And we saw in Timothy Zahn's, Heir to the Empire,
Yeah.
that some were attempted to be cloned, and they didn't even know that they were clones.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? What was the main?
You had like Joris Seaboth. You also had Luke Skywalker clones, Emperor clones.
Yeah, but it was George Sebo, the guy, the graybeard.
Yeah, he was like a fallen Jedi too that had been like tortured on Mount.
Yeah, in the first version they find of him though, he doesn't know that he was a clone.
Yeah,
right. He's like,
he doesn't even know. He doesn't know much. He was just twisted by the Emperor, and so I think like turns like that are awesome. Like
and I like that they're picking cherry picking stuff from the extended universe, as they're calling it now. But like, I like that Dave Filoni's like, you know what? No, some of that deserves to be canon. Like they wrote some really good stuff out there. We have all of this source material that we can choose from, and we, even making it non-canon means that we can bring in just the parts that we want.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing so far so good. Like Coruscant was written by Timothy Zahn. That was a planet that was created by him.
Yeah,
and that's
awesome.
canon.
Yeah, and then its inclusion into there, I think, was just fantastic. And now even with, I'm pretty sure we're not going to see Thrawn now in Kenobi, but coming up here in Ahsoka seems like a probability that's going to be really high up there. So I'm not sure that we'll see Ahsoka so much in Kenobi. Like, I'm kind of more of that, going with a Cal, maybe a Quinlan Voss, if they're trying to get back and do some stuff. He's just kind of he's in the underworld. We already know that. And as we've seen so far, the underworld has been involved. We've got bounty hunters that are getting, called in. We have, drug dealing gangs stealing princesses and stuff. So
I mean, what do we got to do? What do we got to do to see Bosk? It's like, I think we've been waiting on him for so long. Like, what do we got to do?
Yeah, it would be nice to get a Bosk. You know what I mean? And especially his representation in like the Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff like is cool. I would not be surprised because at this point in time, Bosk is with young Boba Fett.
Oh,
with young Boba Fett, not Cad Bane, because they're at odds, but. And they're forming, I believe it's called the Krait's Claw, is the name of the name of the like bounty hunter
was that
thing.
Clone Wars or Rebel?
I believe it's Clone Wars, and then I think they touch in on it in this episode where they're like rescuing a princess. That's where they really start it, because there's I forget the name of the droid, but then they have a couple of other bounty hunters in that group. But it's really a like we could get some of those bounty hunters like. Kind of in a more in the flesh form as opposed to, the cartoon forms that we had them in before. Even a young Boba. Yeah. Like I was not expecting a young Leia on Alderaan, and we get her almost, right away. We could, in theory, get a young Boba here on his own, trying to find Kenobi now that, the bounty hunter call's been kind of out, and it's probably going to come
You would,
out even more, in the
yeah,
future.
you would definitely have to bring back that actor Logan. What's his name?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
That
Who
played him
played
because
him?
he'd be a good younger version.
He'd
And
be a great age for it. Yeah,
that was Tamara Morrison that plays the clone trooper
yeah, it
on
was.
that planet that's looking for a handout.
That
I
Obi-Wan gives
looked
him
that
some money. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I looked it up.
yeah.
What a great cameo! That guy has just got like 1,000 roles that he can play.
Oh yeah.
I
Well, and I
love
think that's a
that.
great aspect of like the dude's, on the
He's
down
the
and
clone.
outs. I mean, and kind of a long shot too, because we're talking about people we might see. At this point too, we've seen one clone trooper. It's kind of in the air. We could, in possibility, see a Commander Cody, but much different.
That's who I thought it
You
was
know,
when we were watching it.
Yeah, but it
I
would
was
have been
like,
an
is
instant
that?
recognizing, of him,
Yeah,
right? But Darth
yeah.
Vader, at this point, what they're doing with a lot of the clone troopers that are still in service is they're like ripping them apart and sticking them into those dark trooper version 2 droids that are like mostly droid with just a couple of humanoid parts. And we've already seen those in canon already. It wouldn't be surprising for me to see like almost this General Grievous like dark trooper droid with Cody's like brain and other stuff in there. It's kind of far fetched, my far fetched
Kind of like
science
in the
faction
Bad
one.
Batch. What's that? What's that guy's name? He's got like
Echo.
a little robotic. Yeah, Echo.
Yeah, and we've seen just so many different forms of the clones being operated on and like in these Frankenstein scenarios. And we know for a fact, like canonized, that they have these droids and that they have integrated human brains into just fully encased droid stuff, just General Grievous 2.0 stuff, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So I could see that, now that they're hunting them down, she's going to be on the hunt, now that she dropped the A bomb and said Anakin's name, he's coming in. I mean, that's how the episode ends, right? Is him waking up.
That taunting scenario
Yeah.
is extremely close to like when Vader is calling out Luke on the in the final battle where he's like, if you won't join me, your
Yeah.
sister will.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, your thoughts have betrayed you, like. And when they show Obi-Wan's face and his eyes, that recognition, it was, you could go spot on side screen it to Luke and be like, that's the same exact look. Like,
Yeah. The
don't let your
darkness.
rage don't let your rage take over. And
Yeah.
inside he's like bubbling, like, oh my god, what
Yeah.
the.
And he's scared too. I At that point,
Yeah.
it's like all
Oh, I'm
the
sure.
emotions of like, oh my god, like the failure he feels too, because he's like, well, at least maybe Yoda didn't succeed, but at least I got rid of Anakin, who's detrimental. And now he's like, oh, whoa, okay, so the chosen one has survived, and he's got no legs, and he's gonna be a robot murderous person. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. I
And
love how they did that.
it's hard to take it out of your head that just because we've seen what happens, that it hasn't happened as of yet. And it's hard not to, to divide that from like, oh, well, I know that this is going to happen and this, but just watching like the actual emotion, the feeling, you have to like be in the moment in these episodes, because this is all happening in real time now.
Yeah,
And you're getting to see what created each one of these characters.
yeah. Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. Like, I love that. I love just the little points that are making it. Like we're watching that breaking down of Obi-Wan from this revered general and top tier, and now he's like slicing meat off of a fallen creature in the
Making
desert.
sashimi, yeah.
And at this point now too, we know Anakin, or at this point Darth Vader, as this like machine like person, but there's still going to be all this passionate human aspect of him that hasn't been killed down yet, because he's just, begun his journey, so to speak. He's only like, what, I think it's like 9-10 years into being in that suit. And so like he's going to be a different person than both forms that we've seen so far, right? Like, because
Oh
we see
yeah,
him in his hyper
he's just
form.
getting adjusted to that, and he's using a lot of the dark side to get through that pain. I'm sure, he's still adjusting to having mechanical everything.
Yeah.
So he's deep in it right now.
Spending
And
a
he's
lot of
probably
energy forgetting, Padme, but then using it as rage, and it's like, man, it'll be interesting to see when he's suited and booted, because we're so far before Rogue One where he's just like that, just slicing and dicing. You know what I mean? We get a chance
oh
to see
yeah,
him in Rebels, later on, and in that fight with Ahsoka, that's just like incredible. And he's very, he's still very focused on like, but he's
finding
still human.
Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
That's
he's still on Obi-Wan, but he's still
he's like,
like,
you betrayed me, and I'm gonna
oh yeah,
find you and kill you.
yeah, and it's like, so it's just wild to see him go this far of a distance and to watch each like kind of chink of the armor come up, and especially with like, because they've been including a lot of that stuff in the comic books, which is cool. But to see it on film and to get to watch Hayden Christensen come back and just slice and dice, right? Like it's gonna be awesome,
Oh yeah, I
And
mean
we'll
that
see
that
how long it takes. I mean, they said he was in like what 4 episodes, so we've just got one technically. So
well,
it's
that
like,
shot I was gonna say is pretty incredible, and to know that
yeah,
that was him and all the makeup and everything is
yeah.
great.
I mean, well, he's all on. He's all on board for this one. Like, and from what he said in an interview is that this is just the beginning. So that gives me, a new hope. Hey, that we're gonna be seeing like a bunch of
Oh,
cool stuff like that.
same.
So it's
Yeah, and
like,
they're already discussing making a second season, even though that this was supposed to only be one
yeah,
limited series. I mean, just looking at the way that it's filmed like a film,
yeah.
like it's got the hue of a major production, and I don't see them not feeding off of this and doing a second season. It
Well, yeah.
it would be
I mean, we're
it would
getting
be money
about
left on
what
the table if anything,
I think it's around what. So each one we'll say is 45 minutes, because credits,
average, yeah.
whatever, and all that. I mean, so that's a good amount. That's 4.5 hours.
Yeah,
That's a good two movies, a double feature,
yeah.
and broken down into 6 shows. And we got the first two dropped early. It's going to be really interesting to see how these next two go and where this story develops. I'm really looking forward to how it ends, because now, here we're all worried about, well, how does Obi-Wan like keep Luke safe on this planet? And they're like, yeah, that's cool, right? How about another curveball? How does he keep them both safe? Because now he's
Yeah.
traveling with a force sensitive child that's like exhibiting some of this stuff, I think, too. I think we've seen some of that in her ability, like especially when she's talking with her cousin, she sees right through him and what his
Oh
fears
yeah.
are. I think some of that is her political training, but it's also heightened by her Jedi natural innate ability. So,
Yeah, and a lot of people are looking at the words that he says to Vader as a plot hole when he's like, or Vader says to him, like that's a feeling that I haven't sensed that feeling since, and then he walks away, and then when they're fighting, he's leaving, or they're about to finish the fight, he's like, or start the fight, last time I saw you, I was but and now I'm the master. They never specifically said when was the last time that that they saw each other. They didn't say that Clone Wars. They didn't say that Revenge of the Sith was the last time.
mm-hmm.
So it's not really a plot hole to me. It's just really they're going to figure out a way to show that.
To weave it all together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it won't be that crazy conspiracy or ruining canon at all. It'll just be like, oh yeah, well I just saw you last week. That was the last time I saw you.
Yeah.
They didn't specifically say that it was 20 something years ago when I was a student just because he wasn't a Jedi master at that point. It's like a lot of people read into those words. It's like, oh, they can't change this. How are they going to fight again? It's going to ruin it. I don't believe
Yeah.
that it is. It's
They're
like they
interpreting
wouldn't they
it
wouldn't
in
have
their own way,
yeah
too.
and they wouldn't have made this if they knew it was going to decanonize some of the greatest moments in Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's what we were talking about before too. That's like part of their struggle is how do we weave this tale together so that we're not going to be sacrificing anything in the canon. We don't want any sort of situation where we're kind of backed into a wall. So I think
Yeah.
they've treaded very carefully. now that we've got Leia's telling of her younger story, I'm excited for that because we can get some spin-offs from that, and they're doing it great. The Grand Inquisitor getting smoked is going to be an interesting one to see how that comes up, because he just takes that saber straight to the belly, but apparently lives because he crushes the rest of
Well, I mean,
Rebels.
it's a cauterized wound straight
Yeah,
through.
yeah,
And I'm sure in his species that his
yeah.
organs are not in the same place.
Yeah, we don't know yet. He is from Utapau, so it's like we don't
Yeah.
know if he's gonna be how they're built. We already know that he's got to wear those special headphones because his ears are so sensitive. Like so, like we'll see. Like, and it'll be interesting to see. I think that could tie in maybe with keeping some secrets safe later on and setting Darth Vader on to Riva, right? Like the
Yeah.
third sister. So it'll be, or Vera, excuse me, my bad. Right?
Reba. No,
Riva,
you're right.
yeah. I was right in the first place. I'm like, it's got to be
Yes.
right. I'm like, it's not Vera Wang.
Yeah.
Come on, baby. She doesn't look that good. She doesn't look that good. No, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that like really comes to fruition now that that's gone down. She's kind of gone rogue, right? Like, we know that at least the fifth brother is going to survive whatever encounter he gets into with her or anybody else because he perishes later on. So it's like, man, I can't wait to see how they weave it. Already, the tale that they've told, we've got Obi-Wan off of Tatooine, and onto a whole new planet of Daiyu. We've seen Alderaan. It's just a lot of really cool stuff is being put into play here, and I'm pretty excited for it. So.
Yeah, and they're not like just overwhelming us either. They're doing it very nicely. Whereas in Mando, it's like really fast paced, planet to planet, things like that, which I don't mind because needs to be that type of pace because it doesn't have a lot of the Skywalker lore in it. The first season or whatever. So I enjoyed that. But with this, this is such a major backstory
Yeah.
that they don't want to convolute it with.
Yeah.
Oh, we're here. We're here now. We're here now. How did we get here? And I enjoy the pace of it.
They have to tread carefully too. This isn't like The Mandalorian, like where they can be a little bit more loosey goosey. To me, it's a lot more like where they were at with Boba Fett. They're gonna have to tread carefully. Like I think they'll be able to be a little bit more loosey goosey with Andor, which I think is gonna be great. We're gonna see a lot more of the dirtiness from Rogue One, kind of continue on in that. You can even hear the like hate and anger and spite in his voice in that preview. So.
Oh yeah, and the politics of it all, that everyone was just like, how did we get to this? And the OT, like what they talk about it, but like what were the disputes behind this? Yeah. And we get to see that greedy like espionage type stuff.
Yeah. I mean, from that and like just watching Obi-Wan, we watch Obi-Wan go from being this amazing heroic being in the prequels and just doing so much cool stuff, and to see how far the mighty have fallen. It's like I know that we get to see that with Yoda, like it's really on display there, but to really watch like the intricacies of the breaking down of Obi, every day taking that train back in, what I mean, after seeing them getting half pay and stuff, it's like, man, you feel for the dude, it's like, God, man, you just watch your best friend get sliced in half by your own blade, basically. Like, you had to take care of his kids, and make sure that they were going someplace. Now you're watching one from afar. Like, it's just, it's interesting to see that human aspect of it,
Yeah, and you can't use you have to put, your force powers deep inside. Like, you can't even talk through the force, you can't even speak with Yoda.
His only friend's his EOP, right? His faithful steed.
Yeah.
Through the Jundland race.
And the Jawa that's stealing his stuff.
I love, dude, that aspect was so great. That aspect
what's that guy's Tiki?
Yeah, I think it was like Tiki or Tika maybe. Yeah, I believe
Tika.
Yeah, and that was just so good, man. That was so fantastic. And like I think that we see that later on too. He's like more playful with him. He never ever hurts a Jawa, right? Never mess with a Jawa. They're just, Mando gets it all wrong by exploding them poof all over the place. Crazy. All right, man. Well, I think we pretty much hammered everything home, dude. It's pretty awesome so
Yeah, I
far.
mean, I guess the only thing left is like, so with the
Where do we
beginning
go?
of this, what would you rate? What would you rate the first two episodes on a scale of 1 to 10? What would you rate it? Star
Oh, I'd probably
Wars,
go
where they?
9 on that first one, and probably an
Hmm.
8 on that second. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like I mean I really think probably my only downfall is I don't really I don't want to say it as much, but I don't like the third sister as much. I don't know how her acting is going to be portrayed down the road. We've talked about this a bunch, kind of how you said too.
yeah.
Um like that's
Yeah,
really I think the
it,
only thing now, and I don't even I don't think I mind it that much. I think there's an end game to this. Like I think she's like scorned, she has to maintain a facade. I'm not quite convinced yet like where she's at, and I think this will get more into like a gray Jedi area, but I'm at about a solid 8, 8.5, 9, on those. Where are you at, my man?
I think I can definitely agree with the 8.5 for both episodes for me, straight up, right
Nice.
across the board. Well, because we got to see them back to back too. Like my rating might be different if I would have had to wait a week and saw, different and been like, oh, well, this one, the second one had a little more action, and
Yeah.
the first one was a little dull. But since we got it all as basically, an hour and 30 minute, 40 minute, I rate them
Yeah.
about an 8.5. And
It was a
I
good
think that, yeah,
strategic drop like that too. I think. I think
yeah,
they
yeah,
played that well. That so slow to like, okay, now you're on rooftops.
yeah,
James Bond, this shit, dude.
yeah. Yeah, and my only reservation was the exact same as yours.
Yeah.
The
Well, you
actress
brought
that
it up
is
first. In all fairness, yeah,
portraying Riva, it's just not hitting correctly.
yeah,
But we are only in the first two episodes. I think the personality of the actress, and I'm not sure if the Deborah Chow was telling her to, let's reshoot and to
yeah,
get it exactly what we're seeing,
hmm,
or this was the best that they could get after a bunch of like takes.
yeah.
And I would hope to think that it's the latter, but
It
you
might
know,
be just too
yeah, it's
for us. Leia was so good, like
yeah,
as a
she
child
definitely
actor.
overshadowed her whole,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's kind of
every
where I'm
scene that,
landing at. I'm like, man, Leia
yeah,
killed it.
yeah,
Like she even
yeah,
crushed Jimmy Smits. Like Jimmy Smits next to like baby Leia was nothing. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Just like get
and
out
and
of
I
here.
can and I can see that they wrote this character to be somewhat annoying to the viewers.
Yeah,
That's the point of it. She's overambitious. You want to see it's all up in your face,
yeah,
but also there's just it's a little it's the mannerisms and stuff that she does to make herself look tough and stuff. It's just it doesn't for me, it doesn't come across through the screen. I'm kind of like, I don't know, like I get it. Like if I was there probably and I lived on Tatooine, I'd be afraid. But as an audience, it doesn't seem like you're that intimidating. But
yeah,
we shall see. Because this could just be a redemption story, as Star Wars loves to do, where she started in the light, went to the dark, and then goes back to the light. We shall
yeah,
see.
yeah. And I think even like people will point out that like she sliced the Grand Inquisitor, but it's like man, the Grand Inquisitor is kind of bush league. I'm just like
Yeah,
like they really scare these like Jedi on the run and stuff when three of them show up, and like they're great at intimidation and stuff. But as we've seen, like when it comes down to battling like Darth Maul or like an actual like we'll even say like a B tier or an A tier Jedi, you know what I mean? Like they don't always fare so well, So it's like this whole like I'm tough and like coming up and I want to find Obi-Wan. I'm like, yo, are you sure about that? Because like first off, Obi-Wan is a master of Suresu at this point now, right? Like
yeah,
he's killing it, dude. So it's like, yeah, he's like, I wouldn't be getting in there, as Maul finds out later in in the same Twin Sun deserts, But like,
yeah.
so to me, I think
Choose.
that's why it really rubbed me wrong because I'm like, yo, I don't think like you should know that like there's no clout to be gained here, like, and maybe we have the foresight of knowing Obi-Wan makes it through and they don't, so they're just charging it head first. But I'm like, man, the best Sith are the ones that plan, and do, as we found with Palpatine, right? And it's like you don't just run in face first to Obi-Wan Kenobi, like.
Yeah.
That's Darth Vader's
And
shop, girl. You
and
know?
and then that's why I'm starting to get excited for like Acolyte and stuff like that, where
Yeah.
there's just not the rule of two,
Yeah.
and we get to see the rise of Sith
Mm-hmm.
in its entirety.
Yeah.
Like we luckily in Clone Wars and the prequels, we got to see the full pack of Jedi's storm into that arena. And all five. I remember seeing that scene. It's like, God, I've been waiting for this. In my
Yeah, it's just
head, I
so
played it
awesome.
out, seeing a bunch of Jedi's fight at
Mm-hmm.
once. So hopefully we get to see that too, in future installments.
Well, it definitely captured that sort of love from that episode, right? From the prequels. It captured that in the beginning part of
Oh
this
yeah,
with opening up on that Order 66. And it's up
yeah,
on that grand hall, and you see those kids running away, and there's just lightsabers falling everywhere. So it's kind of, that same kind of sad story, but like much less triumphant at the end, ending on a much
yeah.
more sour note, whereas like that in there ended on a kind of sour note, but at least they got out, alive. So, it's just, it's been great for me at least to see these two and how they started out. Solid 8.5 for sure. Like, and
Yeah,
I can't
and
wait
the
to see how
fact
the
that we're
rest of these
getting
four.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, the fact that we're getting this,
Mm-hmm.
it's been in the making. I remember when they announced it back in 2018, and now look, we're here and we're watching it. So,
Yeah.
even giving it ratings is our personal opinions, but
Yeah.
we are Star Wars fans to heart. So, the fact that we're getting this
Well, and I
is
just love Ewan
glorious.
McGregor as well too. I mean,
Oh
oh,
yeah,
what
of
a
course.
dreamboat, Gosh,
Yeah,
man, to see that grizzled beard too. It's like grizzled
it,
face and just like, oh man, he
he
just
is
looks good.
aging like a fine wine for sure.
Yeah, dude. I love it, man. I love how they're doing this so far, and I look forward to seeing what comes up. So, heck yeah.
Same.
Well, yeah, man. I'll catch you on the next one, and should be next
Yeah, make
week
sure you
coming up.
guys check out Billy's channel
Uh-huh.
and my channel. The links are attached, and we'll
Yeah.
see you guys on the next episode of whatever we're going to call this soon.
Yeah, we'll figure it out at some point, or we'll just call it the No Name Show. Hey.
Yeah.
All right, y'all.
Hey, I'm for it.
Well, kisses.
Kisses.